In this training, I want to give you a quick overview of all of the different things that LinkDM, which is a new competitor to ManyChat, is operating. And yes, before we jump into this, LinkDM is an official partner of Meta, just like ManyChat is. So what we come to when we come to this page, now if you want to follow along, I have created a little document for you which goes over everything that I'm going to do across these couple of trainings that explains LinkDM. If you want to get access to this, feel free to DM me on Instagram and I'll send you the Google Doc. The link will be in the description. I've also included my affiliate link to LinkDM, so if you want to follow along while we do it, then that link will also be in the description below. So if you're coming to this page for the first time, you're going to obviously create a free account. In my case, I already have an account and I've logged in. When you log in the first time, you'll see a thing here that says sync your posts, and you can pay extra if you want to sync more. I personally chose not to do that because I just synced what was available and I'm using it moving forward. Now here you have the area that you can set up basic automation. So these are the links and the posts that I have done over the last couple of days. There are 52 posts here that it has pulled in, and if for any reason it hasn't pulled in your most post, you can just come up here and click check for updates. Now you can either set up the DM automation here. If you're setting it up for once only for that particular post, this is the place to do it. I'll show you where to set it up later in the video if you are someone who wants to have the same trigger across numerous posts. So for instance, I might be promoting an episode of my podcast like this, and you will see me put that trigger on numerous posts. We'll talk about where to put that. Now this is where all your stats are. Obviously you can look at how many messages you've sent, you can look at how many links are being clicked, how many comments, etc. You can also come into the inbox analytics if you are someone who has set up that, which I'll show you where that is too. Now this is where all your recent posts is in a snapshot. You can also come in here and you can set up the links in here. I'm going to explain all of this setup in a different video just to keep this one really smooth, where all the features are and what they are used for. So you will see here you have the option to set up a button template. Now with this option you can have 10 different slides with up to 3 links on every slide. Please don't do that because, like, seriously, that is the fastest way to get your backside into trouble. But you do have that option. So we'll come in and go over this in a more depth, but this is where you find the trigger. So you can either trigger keywords, all comments, emojis. There's a bunch of different things that you can play with here. And you can exclude keywords. So if, for instance, my keyword is auto123, then I can exclude automation, because if that's a really common word, I don't want people commenting necessarily a common word and then they're getting like spammed the DM automation. And then of course you have the settings. So delaying the message can be sometimes useful if you're having a lot of messages going out. Comment auto replies is when you have someone comment on your post and it auto replies. This is something we're going to talk about in a future video as well, because there's a little bit of nuance to that as well. But that is where you set up a very basic automation, and this is where all your dashboard stuff is. Now if we come up here to features, you'll see the word universal triggers. Now universal triggers is a trigger that you want to use across any post. So say I'm always talking about my podcast, for example, and it's a one that I'm going to use a lot of time, or it's something that anytime someone talks about my podcast I want them to be sent a link, then I can set up a universal trigger. Now the amazing thing about this is once you learn the basics of setting up a automation, it's the same basically in every section. In this section it just has a few more features that you can control. So let's have a look at one really quickly. So again, here you have the option of having a message template, a button template. Now where it says Instagram post, Facebook post as an example, that is when you can link that post to another post. So let's just say I did a teaser for a more in-depth reel that I did, because I do mini masterclasses on my Instagram profile. Then I could do a teaser, and that teaser could link people to the masterclass. It could be I do a series and I want to link people to the next video in that series, or the most important video in that series. So that's how you use those two features for Facebook and Instagram. Now, of course, similar things, how to set up. Now, I will say here, send once per user. I don't have that ticked because I have a lot of clients who will come to my stories this week and they might comment auto 123 for an example. Then they'll come to my post or a reel the week after. They didn't read anything I sent them. They didn't finish the automation sequence. So then they'll re-trigger the automation sequence. So I want it to be able to go out however many times it takes for them to actually watch it, consume it, etc. Now with placements, this is where it's ticked is where it can work. So if I have a universal trigger, auto 123 as an example, with all of these are ticked, it can work everywhere. So it can work on my posts, my reels, my stories, my lives, any advertising I do, my Facebook business page. It has to be a business page, not a digital creator or a personal profile. Instagram inbox, Facebook inbox. So this is where you can set up, if you only want it to go out on certain things, you can untick and tick as necessary. And then of course, settings, we have the same as what we had before with flow automation. I'm going to talk about that in a separate video. Basically, the flow automation is a series of texts that you send. So if you have seen a ManyChat thing, you have one text that's linked to another text that's linked to another message. This is what this is, and it's great for follow-up because we have a 24-hour window from when someone first makes contact with us to be able to re-engage with them. So having a follow-up sequence and having a prompt to get them on your email list is super helpful as well. So this is where we find that. So that's the basic overview of universal triggers. Flows I'm going to talk about in a different video, but that allows us to set up a sequence. Leads allows us to add people to our email list. So in this case, this one here is designed to go out something like 12 hours later, asking people if they want more trainings, because the first initial message was really helpful content. It's giving them training videos like to my podcast, asking them if they want to be added to the email list, and I can then choose the fields that are relevant to what I want to do. The thing I would say is do not try in the initial phases to collect more data, because when you start asking people for their phone number and their date of birth and uploading this and doing that, what happens is you create points of resistance, and it's less likely that people will go through the automation. So just get the minimum information that you need to get them on your email list. Now, the amazing thing about this is they never need to leave the Instagram app, which is amazing for conversion rate, because you'll get someone who'll fill out these details quickly, especially if you're putting some value afterwards, which we'll talk about in the flow part of it. It is amazing for not having to do tech. You don't have to set up landing pages, custom pages, any of that. But it's also a great way to grow your email list, because up to 80% of people are willing to do it in Messenger. But when they get to a lead generation page, they hesitate, they think about it, maybe they overthink or whatever. So this is a really good way that's simple and easy to grow your email list. Now, what I will say with this as well, what I've done is I've lined up the fields that I use with what my email sender has in its database, so that when I download this, which I'll show you where it is in a second, I can easily upload it to my email provider without any problems, okay? So if I just close this for a second, you'll see here, this is where I can download a CSV. You might choose to download a CSV every time you're going to send an email out, and just import those emails, tag them. Like in our system, I have a tag for an entire email list. You might even in your email list tag them for specific, types of things that they're interested in. For instance, you might tag them as a social media lead, etc. So this is where you do it, and then when you've downloaded that or you want to get rid of it, you can archive it, etc. And of course you can create one here. So really simple but super powerful. Now, Rewind basically gives you the ability, so you've put out a post and for some reason the automation didn't trigger. Maybe Instagram had a glitch, or for some random reason, maybe even sometimes the messages won't go to people because of their privacy settings. So a certain privacy setting, for instance, I had the other day who couldn't receive my message because she has a privacy setting that she can only receive messages from people who follow her, for instance. So those kinds of little things could be the reason that your message doesn't go through, in which case then you would just manually send the message like you would in the old school days. Now, rewind allows you to click on the rewind of any post, and what it'll do is it'll send out the automation DM as it should have to people who haven't received it, but it'll only do it once. So that's an amazing feature that even ManyChat doesn't have. Now with DM Planner, this is your ability to create a DM automation before you put out a post. I personally wouldn't use this feature. I would use universal triggers or just a simple setup as soon as the post is gone out. The reason being is you can put it all in, do whatever you want to do, but at the end of the post, in order for LinkDM to recognize that post to link to that DM flow, you need to put a code, and I personally don't like the look of the code, so that's not something I would do, but that is something that's there for you too. Now, the other thing, the new thing that's come in recently at the time of recording is DM templates. So DM templates allows you to create templates of messages. So if you have a way that you start a message or you end a message generally, if you have something that you usually say, then you can create a template so that when you go in, you don't have to type all of that again. You don't have to, use emojis, whatever. It's already there and you just fill in new details. Now, next post and next story work very similar. Basically, what you're doing with next post, you are very simply going in, you're creating a DM automation like what we do in all of the other different things. You can tick to have it apply to all future posts. So this might be if you only have one thing that you're sending out as an example. And then what will happen is this will then trigger off every time post or something like that. This here is what you can set up if you want the next post that you put out to have it. Now, of course, you have to have keywords and you can choose the social media platforms and the settings and everything again. But if you tick this, it applies to every post. So just be warned, because that made it really hard for me when I first discovered it. The other thing is you might go to next story. So if you turn this on, what will happen is you can have an automation trigger that links to the next story that you put out. Now you can see all the stories that you have available under this tab here. So these are all my recent stories that haven't expired that I can still set up automation on them if I want to. And again, you can set up automation by keyword, or you can set up automation just by anyone commenting to you. Obviously, that's really spammy. Don't do it unless you have strategies, which I'll talk to you about in a different video. So that's basically what next post and next story is. Comment auto reply is what you see when someone comes and they comment on your post, the trigger word. These are the replies that go out. Now, I will warn you that if you have a post that goes viral and suddenly it's sending out a lot of these, because it'll rotate through these, but suddenly it's sending out a lot, Instagram may pause your account. It may slow down your commenting, restrict your account if there's too much going out, because it will see it as bot behavior. So just be mindful. One, you can have this to go out if you want, because it can increase the engagement on your post, because obviously more comments equals more engagement. What I personally do is I might have a question on it so that it's not just, oh my God, sent you the DM. How many times have you got that? And it's so basic, right? So what I do is I have a question on it that gets them to answer, so that hopefully we can not only increase it by this automation going out, but we can also increase it because they'll come back to us and answer whatever the question is. We go forwards and backwards with us. Okay, so it's a great way to identify clients. But I will say, if you have a post go viral, or if you're someone who's really into relationship building, you may not have this on. And if you are going to have it on, use it and think about how you can strategically use it to be able to increase the amount of comments on the post and also getting people to identify themselves as potential leads. Now, story mention is when someone and mentions your name in a post. So I just did a story where I mentioned another creator, this one here, and you can see here that it's got this @ and her username, so it's got her link to it. So that is a amazing example of the story mentions, and you can then send people a message like a thank you. Remember, our goal with links and with DMs is to start conversations. If all you're doing is just firing off links, your conversion rate is going to be very low. Whereas if you're using it to start conversations and work with people and diagnose their issues, etc., you are going to have a much higher conversion rate. So this one here, you can turn it on. Again, you have settings, you have the templates, you can put whatever you want the message to be in, but this is a great thing. The other thing that you can do is if someone's tagging you because they loved your course or whatever, you can then ask them for permission if you want to post that in your own stories. And the last one is the inbox starters. So the inbox starters are messages that you can have when people come to you that you can start conversations. These are super helpful to being able, if you got someone, for example, who's coming to spam you, I've had people click on the get help from us and it goes through a process, and I've actually had leads come from these inbox starters. What can you put up here? You might put a link to your podcast. You might put a link to your first offer. You might put a link to your email list. You might ask them a question. Like, again, once again, don't think of them as inbox starters. Think of them as conversation starters. How can you get people to raise their hand and indicate that they are a lead for you? So that's all the main features. Obviously, you can come to posts and reels, and this is where all your posts are. You can import additional posts. You can import, oh, there you go. It's the last 100. I'm not interested in that. I'm looking forward, unless, of course, you have a really important piece of content that you want to go back. Like for me, it might be a masterclass and link an automation too. So that's a very basic, fast overview. And remember, your flows are where you go for follow-up sequences. I'm going to handle that in a different video because I want to show you now how to set everything up, how to set up a basic one, how to set up each of the different features, and how to get the most out of them with ideas. So that will be in the future videos. You will see a link in the description around this video that leads you to the other videos in this series that goes in depth on how I use this with strategy to be able to grow my daily leads.